Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome to the Blooming Lotus Healing Channel. My name is Jikara, and I'm a spiritual healing facilitator. And today I have an amazing new friend that I've made online who's going to be talking to us about astrology and how to make that simple for us. And I'm so excited to bring him in and so grateful for all of you to be here and share the space and time with us. And so before I bring him in, I kind of wanted to just share a little bit about a little bit about him. So today I have Cole, and he's been studying astrology since he was 15 years old. And back then he was only focused on sun sign astrology, but he's come very far since then. So he believes that there's no negatives in astrology and no bad placements, no bad aspects, and no bad transits, only opportunities to grow and learn more about ourselves. He prides himself on his ability to bring humor and levity to astrology when creating content and working with his clients. He's currently a resident astrologer of Smudge Wellness, and he's been featured working with brands like Netflix, Hulu, DirectTV, and more. So I'm so excited to have him here, and I'm going to bring him in and share a little bit more about himself. And he's going to be basically teaching us a little bit about the basics of astrology. And one of the things that I really love about him, I did get the opportunity to get a reading from him, is the fact that when he saw my chart, he gave me practical things for me to do that I'm still using till today, for me to manage the energies that I'm contending with. So he was very loving and direct in his approach, but it was really incredible. And if you guys have seen him on Instagram, you probably have seen those videos of planets that are talking, or the moon that is talking. That is him. So that's who we're bringing in today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Cole.
Hi.
So excited to have you. Thank
you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. And you know what? And I know I gave you a little bit of an introduction. I did a little different introduction this time because I just feel like just such a special a guest in on this live, and it feels so good energetically for me. This month has been super amazing, and having you here is I'm just super grateful. And I know that I kept saying that to you, but it's like words are not enough to describe how grateful I am. But before we get started with diving into astrology, I kind of wanted you to talk to us about your own journey of finding yourself in astrology and finding yourself here where you are now, sharing this beautiful space with us.
Yeah, so I like you said, I've been reading about astrology since I was like 15, 16 years old. So it's been a while now. I just turned 26, so I guess we can roughly say like 10 years that I've just known about astrology and have been inquisitive about it. But when I first started learning about it, it was just a playful thing because I was raised Catholic, and a lot of that Catholic guilt, a lot of that sense of like, ooh, you're going to hell because it's not, Jesus. So it wasn't until I moved away to college, right? And being a queer person, being Catholic was very difficult because we were told like you're horrible. But when I moved away to college, I had a really great professor who was my world religions professor, who really opened up my eyes and my perspective that all spirituality at the end of the day stems from the same things, right? So it's not a matter of what you're practicing, it's a matter of like who you are. So as long as you've got something that works for you, that makes you a better person, rock and roll. So it was then when I really started exploring astrology and tarot and more esoteric forms of spirituality for myself, and it resonated with me and it connected with me. And now I'm here because during the pandemic, I hated my 9-to-5 job. It made me want to absolutely lose my mind every day. And I started making content just as a form of therapy for myself, to make myself laugh, to just have like a silly time. And once I started producing astrology content was when I started to grow, was when I started to, see traction. And someone DM'd me one day and said, "Can I pay you to look at my chart?" And
Wow.
I said, "You can do that?" I said, "There's money here?" I said, "Who's been hiding this secret from me all along? I did not realize." So it was then where I was like, if this has the capacity to build, I want to pursue it full time. And I was fortunate enough that, the stars aligned in a great way. And I left my corporate job and I became a full-time astrologer. And I love what I do because at the end of the day, I think for me, it's super healing getting to help other people feel validated in their experience, right? And feel as
Mm,
though the way that they naturally show up is powerful because so much of my upbringing, I was told the otherwise, right? You have to
mm,
do this, you have to fit into this mold, you have to abide by these rules. And the first time that someone told me, when they looked at my chart, my mentor, they're like, "You're an Aries moon. It's okay that you're competitive. It's okay that you're reactionary, right? It's like, that's just how you are. It's how you deal with those that, makes you a good or a bad person." I said, wow, I needed that. To be able to provide that now to others is so therapeutic and so gratifying. It's why I love astrology and the way that I approach it, because there's no right way, no wrong way to look at spirituality. As long as you are doing what you can to make yourself a better person, rock and roll. We're having a great time.
I love this. I love this journey of yours, and it's so beautiful that you kind of like were in that process of creating and finding yourself. Because I feel like of course the pandemic was like really a big transition for a lot of us, right? We kind of all of us were kind of asking those big questions like, why am I here, and like, do I really
Mhm.
love this job, or why am I still in this job, or like we're kind of going through that transition and finding this really powerful, you already had it, but finding yourself in this powerful space where you can share it with others is just so beautiful. And it's just it comes to show how you're really aligning with your soul and your soul's path, which is incredible. And so thank you for saying yes to your soul's path, and for sharing in such a beautiful way. I feel that I sometimes get overwhelmed with information, and I really do love that you have in regards to really giving a positive aspect, or at least giving us the opportunity to see things from a higher perspective versus just being afraid or be driven by fear. And I think that's one of the reasons why I resonate so much with you, is because you really have that intention and that integrity within you. And so I kind of wanted to just, I guess, segue into this and kind of tell us a little bit about so how do we even, like, for people, like, I haven't really been studying astrology, but I've been following astrology. Like, I remember like reading the horoscope when I was a kid, and I was the odd kid that would like read the horoscope, right? And like
Yeah.
keep up with this stuff. But sometimes it could feel so overwhelming, especially because some things didn't really resonate, especially because sometimes those horoscopes are like so general. And so how can people kind of ground some of this information towards them?
So I like to think of astrology as, and this is the craziest thing for me to say, anyone who knows me from like growing up knows that I hate math. I absolutely despise math. But astrology is really like super simple math, right? And that's the best way that I like to frame it, because you've got the what plus the how plus the where. Yeah. I was like, did I say that in the right order? I was like, yes, I did.
Yeah.
So what is the planet, right? Planetary energy. What is being expressed? What is happening? How are the signs, right? How does that planetary energy express itself, right? Is it a little bit of an
Mm,
Aries moment? Maybe it's a Sagittarius moment. Maybe it's an Aquarius moment. And then the where are the houses, right? The area of life that energy is most prominently expressed, right? Or should be expressed. So I like to always frame astrology in that sort of three-step, right? If you know what the planet means, then you add the flavor of the sign, and then you add the context of expressed in a particular area of life. You really got the basics. And I know that sounds so much simpler than, it actually can be when you're sitting and you're looking at everything. You're like, okay, got it. I've got an Aquarius moon and it's in my eighth house. So that means that I'm a little bit closed off, but I'm also really, really emotionally in tune with everyone else. But I have my walls, and it's like, what is it? So it is complex. But I
yeah.
always like to just say, if you can remember the core of what, how, where, you can tackle astrology, right? And you can tackle astrology at its most core form. I mean, there's times where I'm looking at charts and I'm like, I'm having a moment. I don't remember. I was like, what, how, where? I was like, what am I looking at? I'm looking at Venus. What sign is it in? How is that being expressed? Gemini. Where is that 10th house? I'm like, okay, now I can do it again, get myself back on that track.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that. And you know what? And I think that's where I sometimes I have gotten lost with the whole, especially when you look at the chart and you see like, that original chart where it has all the lines and
Hmm.
and it has all the little symbols. And I mean, personally, when I look at it, I'm like, what is
Yeah,
what is
absolutely.
this? This is complicated.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, it is, that's what I love about it, right? I'm a Gemini with a Virgo rising, right? I'm like, I love small details and finding little cracks and everything, just like, ooh, like it's like a puzzle for me.
Mm.
It's very much that type of energy. But I always tell people, right? If you're gonna try and eat, you know, I mean, let's use the analogy of, the birth chart being a pizza, right? You can't eat
Oh,
the entire pizza at once, right?
yeah.
Take it
Yeah.
slice by slice, right? Take it little piece by little piece and say, okay, what actually am I consuming, right? This slice right here, let's say the first house, okay, that's slice number one. This particular piece only has cheese on it, right? Because maybe there's no planets in your first house. But
Oh,
then you go to
wow.
the second house, you're like, oh, this one has like pepperoni and some peppers, and ooh, this is interesting. So
Yeah.
taking it piece by piece and I would say giving yourself the authority to not feel as though you have to digest all of it at once is, I think,
Mm.
super important. And a big reason I like to think about it that way is because uh, growth, right? Self-actualization, healing, all of that stuff doesn't happen
Right.
immediately, right?
Yes.
Understanding yourself from an astrological perspective, you shouldn't have it happen just like that, right? There's
Mm.
always going to be things that come up and new things to learn. So taking it little times is fantastic, right? And that's what I always encourage people who are learning about astrology, interested in astrology, all of that jazz.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so I kind of wanted to ask you, so when we start looking at our like at our chart, and of course, and then I'm going to tell everyone, please make sure that, if you're resonating with Cole, I just kind of wanted to just kind of mention that he, of course, if you are not following him on Instagram, you definitely want to follow him on Instagram because he's going to help you at least with those big transitions that are happening collectively. Like it's just such a like he does it in such a way that it's impossible not to understand what's happening. And then also you can go to his website and book a session, which I'm placing here. So but for example, like let's say on the day-to-day basis, someone who maybe is kind of interested in getting to know themselves a little bit more, or maybe like get to know what's happening at this moment, or make sense of what's happening, of what's being told to them. Where
Mhm.
should they start? Should they start with their houses? Should they start with the sun? With the where should they start to make sense,
Yeah,
at least
I
like
would
now?
say start with your big 3, right?
Okay.
It's, the big 3 is like the thesis statement of your chart. It
Yeah.
shows a really beautiful story about who you are, right? And your core ego, the sun, how you emote, right? What you need in terms of security, your moon, and then that
Mm,
natural intrinsic flow, right? That natural just sort of essence of how you show up, your rising sign, your soul purpose. So I would always say
mm,
start off with those 3, right? And really understand them from that concept of what I talked about, right? The what, the how, and the where. We already talked about the what, right? What is it? The sun, the core ego, core identity, right? What you will revert back to, right? That energy. The moon, emotional body, how we express that, right? How we might
mm,
go about looking for needs and security. And then the rising sign as well, right? That natural intrinsic force, that sort of intuitive, just sort of I flow in this way. A little note about the rising sign. Some people say it's the mask. I say if you were thrown into a room with 100 strangers, your rising sign is how you're going to act 9 times out of 10, right?
wow.
Looking at it that way, I think frames the rising sign well. It's like, oh, yes, love it, perfect. But looking at those 3 to start, right? And then saying, okay, what are the signs that these are in, right? Maybe you are an Aries sun with a Cancer moon and a Virgo rising, right? It's saying, okay, right? So I know that my Aries sun, right? I'm a little bit an Aries. I can be competitive, right? I like
Mm,
I like the chase. I like doing things. I can be a little bit egotistical sometimes, but you also have that Cancer moon, right? Which makes you very emotional, right? Makes you very, very empathetic, makes you very
Mm.
caring, right? So then you see, oh, I'm not just someone who's super competitive, right? A little bit me focused. I'm someone who likes to compete, right? And very ambitious, but I'm also someone who has that conscientiousness to say, hey, good game, right? After the
Mm.
fact. And then you've got the Virgo rising, which says, I'm very keen, very, very perceptive, you know, and these are all just like first things that came to my mind. So taking it those little bits, you know, and then I will say houses are always the most confusing for people, right? You
Yeah.
know, like those are always the moments when people are like, I get everything else. The houses are what stick me. The houses, the easiest way that I sort of learned them is I really sort of sat and I said, okay, when looking at the houses, what are just some key things that I can remind myself about, right? First
Mm.
house is the house of the self, right? So any planet that sits in the first house is going to be a more me focused, me charged planet, right? It's going to say, hey, this planet, right? You got to exert force for yourself. Second house is material possessions, security, finances. So anything that falls in the second house, say your moon falls in your second house, you might be someone who places money, right? Or places material things on a pedestal of, you know, hierarchy for security, right? You're like, if I have something, I feel safe. Third house, right? That's the communication house. And this is, yeah, I don't mind saying this. I was like, I was about to like filter myself. I was like, third house and the ninth house, I will say, are across the board for myself the most confusing and the most difficult to explain because they're communication houses, they're knowledge houses,
Mm.
they're like the mind houses. And you would think for a Gemini, I would be able to, you know, communicate them. But the way that they express themselves are always just like a little bit off, like a little bit like, okay, yeah, it's just what you're interested in, right? You know, where you communicate, how you communicate, siblings, right? You know, higher knowledge, wisdom, these more, I don't want to say like ambiguous topics, but these sort of like more like nebulous-y type topics and more like, okay, got it. So that type of vibe. But looking at it from that framework of, okay, got it. So if I've got my moon in my third house, I wear my heart on my sleeve, right? The communication of emotions. So taking like one or two words, right? Or a phrase, right? And just saying, that's how I can piece it together. I can parse it in my mind is the best thing you can do, especially starting off. And if on a day-to-day perspective, looking at it like that, saying, okay, I know that I'm an Aries sun, right? You know, I'm an Aries sun. And I know that I just saw on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or something like that. Someone's like, there's a full moon in Aries. You can now piece together saying, oh, I might be affected by this, right? I might have some emotional revelation about who I am, right? Because that's the sun, the ego,
Right.
the
Right.
transit. Now I'm getting complex. I'm getting ahead of myself. But you know, the full moon, right? You hear, oh, full moon reveals things. If my sun is in the same sign as that full moon, I might be revealed things about who I am, right? And truth about
Mm.
myself. So as opposed to, you know, whenever I think about astrology, I hate rigidity in astrology. You know, this is the one time you'll hear me shade other astrologers, astrologers who say, if this is, you know, if X, then Y, you know, type vibe. I'm like, we don't know, right? Because there's so many external factors. There's a lot of
Right.
anecdotal stuff we can infer and we can get very, very close to what's actually going to happen. But until it happens, we're not sure, right? We can't be
Exactly. Yeah.
100%. So looking at it from a sense of, you know, okay, this could, right? You know, right? More hypothesis that helps people, in my opinion, in my practice, feel a little bit like, got it. Okay, I can adjust with this. I can roll with this energy.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I went on one of my Gemini tangents.
Yeah, no, no, I love it. No, no, no. And this is what this live is about. And everyone is loving the conversation about astrology. We got some people talking, and I just kind of wanted to take a moment just to acknowledge people here who are saying that first of all, there's somebody here that loves you, that already follows you on Instagram. So they're so happy to see you here. And that's Peggy. And then we have two Peggies in the house. So hi Peggy 1 and Peggy 2.
Hi, Peggy's.
And then Moonstruck is saying that she's an Aries moon too. So she says, we're passionate people. Yes.
We are passionate people. We're a little crazy too, but in a good way.
And then Erica's mentioning Walter Mercado. I don't know if you're familiar with Walter
Oh, I
Mercado.
love Walter
Oh
Mercado.
my gosh.
Oh, Walter Mercado is so fun. Yes,
I
absolutely.
I grew up seeing him, like on TV, and I watched I don't know if you saw the documentary about him. I think it was on Netflix for a little bit, but there is a documentary about him and his life out there, and he was such a beautiful soul. He passed away, but he was
Mhm.
such a beautiful soul, and so highly recommend if anyone hasn't seen this. I don't know if it's still on Netflix or not, but definitely do look it up. And so Cece is saying astrology helped her understand why she's so nitpicky about things. She's a Virgo sun.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, nitpicky, like, just, like, in the weeds of it all.
Yeah. So, and then you know what? And that even for me personally, like, with the fact that, that I exist, like I have the sun in Capricorn, but I have so much Aquarius, it's just like being able to understand that, yes, that I am up there a lot. And I have to like remind myself, like, go
Mhm.
like, lean into the sun energy.
Yeah. That's what we talked about. I was like,
We talked about
ground
that.
yourself,
Yeah.
right?
You gotta
Go
ground,
touch grass, right? Get
touch the
outside for a
grass.
second. Look at a tree, anything.
Yes. The colors around you. So anyway, so I was just so grateful, and again, the delivery of the message was so loving and kind on your end too. So we have Elkie here. She's saying that she loves you too. She loves us both. Awesome. So okay, so listen, I wanted to ask you something
Yes.
because sometimes I have a hard time making sense of the planetary shifts that are happening. Like, when we were talking about collective planetary shifts
Yeah.
and like how to apply that to myself. So, for example, I know that recently you were talking about Pluto in Capricorn, right? So
Yeah,
I'm a
Pluto's a
Capricorn sun. So how should, for example, and I'm just using me as an example, right?
Yeah.
So how should I look at Pluto in Capricorn with this collective transition,
Yeah.
for example?
So the first thing that I'll note is that all the planets move at different speeds, right? The moon is the
Okay.
fastest. So the moon is moving signs about every 2 days, roughly. So no. Yes. Wait, what? Why am I going crazy right now? Yes, sorry. I
A
was
couple of days, right? It's like a
Yeah,
couple of days
every
per
2
sign.
days,
Every two
and then
days.
I was gonna say, I was like, "And Mercury moves signs every day," and I was like, "No, Mercury moves a degree every day." And I was like, one of my ADHD, Gemini, like, internal, dyslexia of the brain moments. The moon moves signs every 2 days, and then you have Mercury and Venus, which move signs about every month, right? Every month, they're gonna move into a new planet or,
Okay.
a new sign. Mars moves into a new sign every 2 months. Those are the
Oh,
fastest moving, right?
okay.
The sun as well. The sun every month moves into a new sign, but I think in my mind, everyone knows. It's like, "Oh, it's Aries season. Next month, it's gonna be Taurus season." So those are the ones from a transit perspective that are gonna be the quickest, right? Those are gonna be the fastest. So if you hear someone say, "Oh, today's the full moon," or "This weekend is the full moon," you can say, "That's gonna be more of a quick moment, right? That's going to be a snappier moment because the moon moves from sign to sign. So you can kind of feel it, right? In a shorter period of time. If you hear someone say, Mars just moved into Leo, right? You can say, okay, I'm a Leo, right? I might feel this energy for about 2 months. Now we'll jump
Mm.
ahead. Pluto. Pluto's the slowest moving. So slow moving. It
Ugh.
moves depending on the sign, just because of the way, now we're getting into astronomy. But just the way that orbits work, right? And the ecliptics and all that jazz. Yeah, the rotation of everything.
The rotation,
Um,
yeah.
the rotation of everything.
Yes.
Pluto spends about 10 to 15 years in each sign, right? So
Mm.
when you think about Pluto, right, and you hear Pluto, you're like, oh, this is going to be a much more longer standing energy, right? But the longer something persists, the less like in your face it is. It's more underneath the surface. It's more submersive. It's very, very deep, right? It's that stuff that you have to really, really look for. So Pluto moving back into Capricorn, right? Anyone who has Capricorn energy, especially if it's a late degree of Capricorn, that's degree theory. That's a very, very complex topic. more math, basically. But anyone who has Capricorn energy, right, you're gonna feel that, right? You're gonna feel that sense of, oh, Pluto's back, right? I'm feeling more, I'm feeling more push to change, right? I'm feeling some more revelations. I'm feeling as though I need to shake something up. I need to change, like transform. I need to let go of, right? I need to have that release. So, a Capricorn sun, right? Those are the
Yeah.
type of people who are gonna have that sense of, ideally, right? Ooh, got it. I'm realizing this facet of my personality, right? And this facet of my expression and how I might, relate and connect to myself. Maybe I need to change that, right? Maybe I need to, gain back control of that narrative, right? Or I need to
Mm.
loosen up a little bit, right? Because Pluto's power and control and transformation. So whenever you're looking at these transits, right, on a collective level, and people, if people talk about Jupiter, for
Yeah.
example, Jupiter's a year, right? It stays in a sign for a year because of retrogrades. Saturn stays in a sign for every 2 to 3 years. That's the big one that we always love to talk about. So knowing the timing of the planets as well, it gets a little bit more complex, but that's really the application of astrology. If you know how quickly, right, the planets are moving, you're able to best adjust and best understand that sense of,
Mm.
oh, I know that this is going to be a longer lasting moment, right? Or this is going to be a shorter moment. That's whenever I do like daily horoscopes on my Instagram subscribers. I talk about the moon a lot, right? I'm always
Yes.
talking about the moon because it's it's the quickest moving, right? It's a daily moment. It's like, hey, this is making an aspect with this. How is that going to, shift us? What can we use with that? If that is something big moves, of course, we'll talk about the big stuff. So, that's how I like to look at it and frame it for people is like, if you know the timing of things, you know a little bit more about, how long it's going to hit you and how deep it's going to hit you, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I love that. Thank you for that clarification, because that really makes so much sense in regards to looking at the at the bodies, right?
Mhm.
At the planets or the bodies like the moon. And so that kind of helps in relationship of, okay, like what is it that I need to pay attention to right now? Do you think it's a good idea, because I know that you're leaning into the moon, but I feel that the moon is a really great, like a really great reminder of things, like for us, like to into that cyclical, aspect. I've been really looking into the moon more and more, in regards to my cycles, like even my moon, like my own cycle with my, with my body and everything. And so I've been kind of leaning into that as a way of kind of like just at least making sense of what's happening energetically. Do
Mhm.
you think that's a good way to at least connect to these energies?
Yeah.
Even if we're not looking at, like, because I don't really keep up with everything that's happening, but I do keep up with the moon at
Yeah.
least. Is that a
I
good
would say,
practice?
no, I would say that's like a fantastic practice, because
Okay.
not everyone has the, and truthfully, like the time, the know-how, right? The desire to be looking at how every planet is making a hit, right? And how every
Right.
little nuance. But looking at the moon is fantastic because it is, right? It's so quick moving, right? It has that ability to illuminate a whole lot. And it's always making those shifts and changes, right? And I mean, there are moments where I'm like, and here's the thing that I think is important as well. Looking at the moon, right, can illuminate the ways in which you react to things a lot, So
Mm.
say hypothetically you see someone, and I'm going to use myself as an example. You see someone talking about the moon just moved into Sagittarius, right? So we're all going to be like fun and, bubbly and having a good time, and like we're going to want to socialize. Moon moves into Sagittarius. Those first few hours that it's there, I'm in like an absolute piss mood. I'm like, I feel bad. I'm
Wow.
annoyed by everything. But that's because I have Pluto in Sagittarius, right? And my sun is
Um,
in Gemini. So I'm looking at an opposition with a
oh,
conjunction to Pluto, right? That deep underworld part of my life. It also sits at the bottom of my chart. So looking at the moon is fantastic because you can then, piece together when the moon's in Sagittarius, right? I might be a little bit, everyone else might, be feeling up and bubbly, right? But I might be feeling a little bit worse, right? Say, say you've got Saturn in Pisces, because that's where it is right now. When the moon moves into Pisces, right, you might feel like, your Saturn's getting activated, right? You might feel a little bit more restricted. You might feel a little bit more emotional. So looking at the moon is so fantastic, right? Because it's helping you understand, this is something that one day I would love to work on, is like, you can kind of create your own like moon journal, right? Of like, oh,
Oh,
right,
wow.
today the
I
moon is
love
in
that.
Sag, right? I know that
Yeah.
I have these planets in Sag, so they're getting activated. So then for the next month, moon is in Sag, I might react this way, right? I might, have that moment. Of course, there's extra layers because Mercury, all the other planets,
Right.
yada, yada, yada. But the moon's a great place, right? For that day-to-day moment of, tracking and understanding, because every month,
Right.
it
It goes around.
goes
Yeah.
around, right? So every month, around this time, right, it might be feeling a type of way. So yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
I
I think
love
that's
that.
absolutely fantastic.
I love that. And definitely I am I'm gonna hold you accountable for that journal. I'm gonna be like, hey, when is that journal coming up? Because that would be amazing actually to be able. And I know for whatever reason when you were mentioning it, I was seeing how you were also going to include the other plant. I just could see how that's gonna be like incredible. So
Yeah,
I can't
and
wait for that.
my Virgo rising and my Virgo Mars are like you gotta be perfect. It's gotta be exactly how it should be. And then my Gemini side's like, you could also just throw it together and just let it exist.
Yeah, I think it would be really beautiful, and I never even thought about it as a way to like as a journal prompt, but that's incredible, and I think I am actually going to start implementing that as a journal prompt for myself, because I feel that even if I don't understand everything that's happening at the moment, I think like later on it'll be just such a great self discovery tool. Like when I go back the year or the month, like, oh, look, this happened for me, or
Yep.
that type of stuff. So yeah, that's really powerful. And so okay, so I wanted to also ask you about um more details in regards to what's happening energetically right now. You probably get this question a lot from people, but like, I know that there's a lot of transitions that are happening with Pluto, and I think it was Saturn, Pluto, and something else I can't remember. But can you tell us a little bit give us a little bit of a spill the tea,
Yeah.
like what's gonna
Spill the
happen? Like,
tea, baby.
spill the
Let's get
tea, baby,
into it.
please. Yeah.
So there is a lot coming up. So for context, over the past couple of months, we really haven't had a whole lot of retrogrades, right? Which is great. We had about 100 days of no retrogrades, and then the Mercury retrograde in April screwed everything
Yeah,
up.
that was intense. Oh my
Love
gosh.
that. So great. But all tea, like straight up, the next couple of months might feel a little bit stagnant for people because we're entering into a retrograde season. In particular, I mean, this is a little bit of a jump, but Virgo season this year, September, ooh, not going to be fun because there's only one planet that isn't retrograde for a period of time, and it's Mars, which is like, well, thanks, Mars. Love that you're the one that decided not to go retrograde for once. Love that, the aggressor, all of that jazz. But I say this because this is, summer naturally is a time. If you're in the northern hemisphere, is naturally a time where like things are up, right? Things are moving, right? So I usually in a lot of ways contextualize transits and what's happening just locationally for where I am at. So, I'm in New York City, right? So summer's always that time where it's like, go, 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 do stuff, be
Yeah.
active, let's have fun. But the next couple of months are going to be slowing down, right? In particular, this week, start Saturday, I believe it is, either Saturday or Sunday, Saturn's going retrograde. Oh wait, hello, I forgot that I had my little online ephemeris moment open. So yeah, right, it's Saturday, Sunday, right, is when Saturn's going to go retrograde. That sort of kicks it off, right? Pluto's been retrograde. Pluto is usually retrograde for most of the year because it's just so slow moving, right? It's one of those ones where I'm like, if Pluto's retrograde, okay, yeah, got it.
Okay. Well,
Gonna be there for a couple months. Got it. Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. But Saturn retrograde, right, is starting, and then we're gonna have Neptune retrograde. Then we're gonna have Venus retrograde. Then we're gonna have, I think, Uranus retrograde and then Jupiter. I might be wrong on that, and of course Mercury retrograde sprinkled within there towards September. It sort of kicks off this sense of slowing down, right? And I don't think retrogrades are bad, and retrograde moments are bad. They're reflective times, right? The re in retrograde stands for reflection, I believe, or renewal, or re-energizing. It's saying, let's pull off the gas for a second, right? When all the planets are direct, right, and nothing's retrograde, go, go, go. Throw things at the wall, have fun, be ambitious, start projects. When things go retrograde, it says, okay, let me now look back at what's been going on, right? Yeah, Venus retro as well this summer. That's starting next month, I believe. My calendar is all over the place as of late. Yeah, Venus retrograde this summer in Leo, which I want to talk about specifically. But all this energy, right? Starting with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, Saturn in Pisces, right? It's setting the tone, I believe, of the retrograde season that we're going to experience to say, all right, we now are getting this invitation to step back into Piscean energy, reflective energy, contemplative energy. We're getting to step into emotional, spiritual energy, right? That's sort of how can I connect mind, body, spirit, all in one with this retrograde. How can I be very, very intentional with that? So over the next couple of weeks, if you notice things aren't happening as quickly as they might have been like in April or March, right? Even May, right? Even last month, that's okay, right? It's just saying we have to do a little bit of work, right? We have to do a little bit of analysis. We have to look back at the methods, right? And the flow at which we are attacking all of this stuff. Venus retrograde, Venus is going to be in Leo for a while, which is fun, which is a party. I'm excited about the Venus retrograde, not because I think it's going to be like super, I mean, it could be uplifting, right? For people, depends on what's going on in your chart. But I think for it to be in a sign like Leo is really, really great because Venus is the planet of love, right? Venus is the planet of connection, how we relate to others, simple pleasures. And Leo, right? Leo's the sign of the lion, right? The self, that proud, like, here I am, right? Not machismo vibes because that's a little bit more Aries, but so it's I really like this Venus retrograde, and I really hope that it reminds people how they can love themselves, right? In a lot of ways. And I hope that it would bring that sort of nourishment and those realizations of like, ooh, maybe I haven't been as kind to myself, right? Or maybe I haven't done the things that I need to do to allow myself to step into my own power, right? Or step into my own beauty, all of those sort of nuances. I mean, Venus is one of the benefics though. So a Venus retrograde, sure, it can, bring up some stuff, right? I mean, you might realize you're not feeling as creative as you were in the past. You might realize you might be feeling a little bit alone, right? Depending on what's going on. Yeah, Cece, slow down, examine ourselves through the aspects of these. It's saying, are you stepping back? Are you examining what's really going on? Venus and Leo, right? The retrograde, are you looking at your relationships? Are you allowing yourself to sit in spaces that are healthy and conducive for you, right? Are you allowing yourself to sit into spaces that shine you, right? Shine a light on you as much as you shine a light on them, so to say. It's not about selfishness, at all. I don't believe that. It's about saying, how can I make sure that the level of passion that I have for things, because Leo's the passion sign, Leo's that fire, Leo's that excitement, the drama is still there, right? Do I still have my heart in it, right? Do I still feel connected to it and as if it brings a smile on my face, whether it's a relationship, a job, a creative project, whatever it might be, right? A home, right? If you got Leo in your fourth house, yeah, you might have some moments of like, do I still love this place? Maybe I want to move. Maybe I want to get out of here, right? Should I start exploring that? Maybe I need to redecorate. So I think it's an invitation, to really say, am I still passionate about this? Am I still feeling good about the ways in which this illuminates me, right? And it brings me that joy. So I'm excited. I love a retrograde season. This one is going to be a little bit crazy, in September once we get there. But if you have the perspective, and even myself, truthfully, there are moments where it's like I'm going through shit and I'm like, I was like, what's going on? I don't know. I'm freaking out. And I'm like, just look at your chart. And then I look at my chart. I'm like, I should have known this.
So that's what's going on.
I should have astrologied myself for a moment. But I
Mm.
will say, just a little pivot. I really don't. I try not to look at my own chart. I have a
Wow.
mentor, and she and I look at my chart every month. And the reason I do this is because of bias. I personally, for
Mm.
myself, I know if I'm looking at my chart, I'm gonna be looking for specific things, right? And I'm gonna, because that's just my ego, right? That's just
Mm.
one of the crosses that I have to bear, is that I'll look for specific things. So it just depends on the person, whether you want to look at your own chart or always, have someone else. I'm the type of person where it's like, I do need that outside perspective, because I'm so stuck in my head all the time as a Gemini with the Virgo rising, right? My Mercury is getting crazy aspects right now to Uranus and so much other stuff. So for me, I like to have someone else look at it and say, like, did you notice this? I'm like, oh yeah, okay, there it is, understood. So yeah, that's kind of like what's coming up.
Yeah,
Again,
that's incredible. I'm so excited. And I also got this message from Spirit, that not with the self-love message that you're bringing forth. There's also this aspect of the feminine that wants to come in and really weave into our lives, like the feminine energy, meaning that receptivity, that
Mhm.
that slow down, which is so aligned with what you're saying right now. So I'm so grateful that you're basically saying the same thing that I was kind of feeling energetically that wants to happen in my own life, like, and what I'm observing also with people around, and the messages that keep coming when I pull cards for my membership group, like, because I do little collective readings, and that keeps coming up, is that the feminine aspect wants to come in and really just get us in a space of that receptivity and that slow down of reflection, and really feeling into our essence, and start recalibrating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I love
so
that, because like you said, all of like the words, right? Be more
yeah,
receptive, recalibrate, all of that jazz. So it's like any sort of RE moment is such a great retrograde moment, right? To think about. Don't think about, oh my gosh, the world is like, crumbling around me. Think like, oh no, it's just a reminder to be more intentional, right? Examine things, fill in the nuances.
that's incredible. And I'm so grateful that you shared some of this beautiful message for everyone here who's watching now or on the replay. And I kind of want to take a moment just to, well, first, thank everyone who is here. And if you are interested in, booking a session with Cole, I would invite you to go to his website. It is worth it. Let me tell you, it's so worth it. He takes the time to really look at your chart and give you practical ways of managing the energies. He's not just going to just throw all this information at you and leave you all like, oh my God, what did I just listen to? Like, he's actually going to give you like a very grounded way, as you noticed on this conversation, for you to take away something, and have some practices or tools, so that you can manage the energies, and be aware of. And if you're not following him on Instagram, oh my gosh, you really need to right now, because he's amazing. I love all of his content on Instagram, and he's also on TikTok too. But I just put here, just didn't have the space, but TikTok too is the
Yeah,
same.
Instagram's also so much better than TikTok now. No shade to anyone who loves TikTok, but TikTok is kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, and he also has
That's how I
a
feel.
YouTube channel, just so y'all know. So you can also follow him on YouTube. I've been trying to see convince him to see if he's gonna make some longer content videos. We'll
I have
see.
some exciting. I have some exciting
You
things in the
do?
plans.
Okay.
I
Oh my God, I'm so
I will
excited.
be sending you a formal email coming up soon.
Oh,
But
yay.
I do have some exciting stuff in the works on YouTube. I've been a little inactive because I'm like, I don't know how YouTube works. I was like, I'm such a short form content person where I'm like, hi, 2 seconds, beep, beep, beep. Okay, cool, done. And I was like, post it. And I was like, I didn't have like the idea yet. And I'm super excited about this idea. I don't want to spill the beans on it because I'm like passionate about it. And I'm like, this is what's going to take it to that next level that I've been kind of missing and like looking for myself. So you will expect an email here soon about my plans and my
I can't
ideas.
wait.
And everyone else listening, just go subscribe now, get it out of the way. So
Yes.
once it starts, coming out, you're already there.
Then you're already there. You're already watching and going for it. I'm so excited. I can't wait. I had a feeling that was going to happen. So y'all, I didn't mention earlier, but we actually did an exchange. So I did a clearing for him, and then he did a reading for me, and then it was amazing. It was like such an amazing, beautiful exchange that we did that day. And it's funny because I from the moment that I connected with Cole over Zoom, I just felt this familiarity to him. Like I just felt this love, this like so much love for him. Like it was just from my heart, from my soul. And when I checked, I was like, oh my gosh, like we are part of the same soul family. So we're meant to be collaborating. So I'm so excited.
I love it. You're fantastic.
It's beautiful to be able to connect to that. And so make sure you follow him you can go to TikTok, Instagram, of course, and then also make sure you check out his YouTube channel. So
yeah, all
so
the socials are the same. It's all JK. It's Cole.
It's all the same. JK. It's Cole.
I'm a slut for branding. Pardon my French. I'm like, if someone asks, it's like nothing's different. It's all JK. It's Cole.
I love it. Look, people are saying you're followed. Okay, so I kind of wanted to open up the space real quick for people to ask questions. If you have any questions for Cole in regards to what he explained today or astrology in general, this is your time to pick his brain. So make sure you go in there and into the comments and ask your questions. Feel free. There's no bad question. There's always good questions here. So please do ask your questions. But in the meantime, while people are asking questions, I just kind of wanted to say that I can't wait to see what you got going on your YouTube channel. Like I am like so excited. I can't wait.
It's gonna be really, really fun. It's something that I've talked about jokingly for a while, like this vision for myself in like a different format. Because it's very like pie in the sky type moment, I thought. And I was like, wait, I was on a podcast just like a few days ago. And I was talking about it, and me and the person, like, we looked at each other for a second, and I was like, why am I not just doing this on YouTube? And she was like, and I was like, yeah, okay, got it. We both had like a moment of like, oh, duh, like standing right in front of you, like right in front of me the whole time. I was like, got it, okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm so happy for you because I was feeling that for you too. Like when I was, because your higher self guided the clearing for your channel too. So it was like it was really interesting that came up, and I was like, I think you're meant to be doing something with YouTube as well. And if anything, it's just it expands the energy, And one of the things that I love about YouTube is just like it's just people. It's not this scroll energy, like this scroll energy, like okay, go go go. It's kind of like people want to come in and hang out,
Yes.
And so I really do love that because to me it generates so much connection with people. Not that we can't connect in the shorter forms, but I feel like there's like a little bit more of that deeper connection there with YouTube. I personally have been thinking about moving my live streams because I do live streams on Mondays on Instagram. And so I've been personally thinking about moving them to YouTube precisely for that, because people are more willing to sit here and hang out. So,
and I think YouTube is also like just a great space to kind of just talk,
Yeah.
It's like, I always feel with, and it's a reason I'm very grateful for it. Short form content in a lot of ways forces me to edit, right? Make sure that everything's like quick, snappy, straightforward, like, because if I'm holding my phone and I'm scrolling, I don't want to watch a 3-minute long video.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I consume on my TV, on my laptop. If I'm consuming content, it's on YouTube because I'm sat, I'm comfortable, and I'm like, oh, a 30-minute video on like whatever it might be. I'm here. I was like, baby, I got the popcorn. I'm eating.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm absolutely there, 100%. And I think the spiritual space, YouTube, YouTube's like really fantastic because it allows you
Yes.
to not, because spirituality is personal as it is, it's also complex, right? Because it is that it's that gateway to answers, right? And we're all like, we have our questions, so it allows you to dive in deep. It allows you to get really personal. It allows you to, you know, explain things in a longer format that you might not normally have. Now, what I will tell everyone is if you're expecting like hour-long horoscopes for each sign on my YouTube, you are sadly mistaken. That is not, I absolutely have no desire and no interest to do that at
I was not
all.
expecting that from
I
you.
was just like, I will just put that precedent out there. That
Yeah,
I,
you
there's
gotta
some
do your.
people who do it, and I was like, I don't know how you do this. I was like, this is like fantastic. Like, I love it. Not me. No, absolutely not. I tried it for, there's like a period of time. If you go through my YouTube now, you can see I've tried it. I'm like, "Ah, not it. Not for me. Not the tea. Don't like it."
Mm. You
Mm-mm.
know, I think I haven't personally been able to watch hour long, like I personally am not able to watch those hour long videos. So that's so I kind of look forward to your videos. So, yeah. So yeah. Moonstruck is saying that you're a hoot.
It's the Gemini sun. It's the Gemini sun, Gemini Venus. I keep it silly. Keep it silly and
Yeah, I
goofy.
love it. I love it. So okay, so
Yeah.
there's no questions here coming through. So we're gonna leave it at this. Cole, is there anything else that you want to share with us before we close this live?
Yeah, I'll bring it back to the beginning, what I said about, the what, the how, the where, really fantastic. And I just, when I said Gemini Sun, Gemini Venus, another thing that I wanted to hit on, this is a little bit more complex, but, you know, aspects in astrology, the ways in which that they interact with each other, right? Something that I always say, there's no bad aspects. There's tough aspects. Yes, there's things that
Mm.
challenge us. But very much so, the way that I like to look at it is that sense of your chart. It's like a dinner party, right? You got some people who want to sit on this side of the table. For me, my Gemini Sun and Gemini Venus, right? But opposite them, we've got Pluto, who's like, get me as far away from those two as possible, right? Pluto and Sagittarius. But they're not inherently disjointed because they're still all at the same party. They're all part of the same group. So your chart
Mm.
doesn't want to work against itself, right? Your chart wants to work with itself. So looking at the ways in which they might be having a conversation, that's why when I post videos, I'm talking as the moon, right? Or talking as like the sun, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
because the way in my mind I see it, it's like when I'm looking at a person's chart, I'm like, my sun is telling my Pluto one thing, right? But my
Oh,
Pluto is
wow.
telling my sun the opposite of that, in
Yeah.
opposition, right? I have my rising sign, right, is saying, hey, let's be more meticulous and straightforward, right? Let's be very nuanced in Virgo. And then my sun is like, okay, but we also have to just like have fun and be loose and just sort of talk out of our ass so that ideas can form. So they don't want to work against each other, right? So imagining, I don't know, it works for me, it works for some people. Imagining like your planets are talking to each other can sometimes help contextualize like what's happening. Whereas like, okay, well, my rising sign is saying this, but my sun is saying this, right? That's why I might have tension, right? That's why I might
Mm.
experience that in a different way. And this also explains a lot of why people don't connect to their sun, right? Or don't resonate with their moon sign or anything like that, right? Where they're like, and then you realize, oh, because my sun is getting told to like, screw off by my Saturn. Got it. Understood. Right. Like those sort of things where it's like that vibe. Do I follow Western astrology? Brandy asked. Sorry, I looked at the comments and I
Yeah,
saw.
it's all good. Yes, please.
So I follow Western tropical astrology, esoteric, within like an esoteric focus. I'm familiar with. I'm currently back in like I was telling my boyfriend, I was like, I think as I'm like doing things and shifting things, I'm like I'm like back in my research era is what I'm calling it. Like I'm studying again. So I'm Western tropical esoteric. I know traditional astrology, starting to learn more Eastern Vedic astrology, starting to read up on
Mm.
that, become well informed. Um,
Yeah.
I know a little bit of like the Chinese zodiac, just like here and there, because I believe like it's all so fluid, right? There's no one right way to practice it. Let me because my astrology readings, there are times where we might be talking and, I might be telling you something and I'm like, let me pull this like more traditional concept in for a second. Or I'm like, oh, let me like approach this from more like, esoteric sort of psychological perspective. So I pull and I gather, right? From all different sources as much as I can, just given in the moment where I'm like, I should say it this way, right? I should talk about this concept from this POV. Because I don't believe in staying in one lane. I'm a Gemini.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm a
I
Gemini.
love
I
it.
got my
You got
toes in
yes. But
everything.
but seriously, it's such a beautiful way to approach it though, because then you're allowing yourself to open up, and it's the same. Going back to what you said at the beginning, with what you learned in your in when you were going to school, and where you were like, okay, everything comes from the same place. It's just whatever is aligned with you. Well, also giving ourselves an opportunity to explore and be curious, like
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful,
There's nothing wrong with asking questions at all,
right.
like, or, being inquisitive and, saying, well, I noticed for myself, I was like, when I, look at certain things, I'm like, that doesn't resonate with me even, right? Like certain explanations or whatever. It's like, but this variation of that explanation does, right? So at the end of the day, right, they're different sources, they're different schools of thought, but you don't have to just confine yourself to one, right? Like,
Mm.
mm.
Listen, we have a flurry of questions over here. Do you have a little bit of time?
Oh, absolutely.
Look at this. We have
Yeah.
like all of these questions coming in. I don't know if maybe there was like a delay from because from StreamYard or something. So I apologize, y'all, if you were, if that's the case. But now we've got a flurry of questions. So okay. So how would does Gemini moon affect mutable signs?
Yeah, so we've got the new moon, right? Yeah, new moon this
Yeah, the
weekend.
new moon is coming
New
up,
moon this
I
weekend.
believe.
I was
Yeah.
I was about to say full moon. I said, "No, Cole, it's Gemini season. It's not the new moon. It's not the full moon. It's the new moon." New moon in Gemini, right? So of course, new moons are new beginnings, right? New opportunities. They're intention setting, right? Whereas full moons are more of those like cleansing, release, sort of like, okay, get that energy out of here vibes. I love that you asked about mutable signs because this is sort of like education moment. So for context, there's mutable, cardinal, and fixed signs, and if you look at a chart, they're always kind of like in a cross from each other. So for example, I'm a Virgo rising, right? So here we go. Okay, so if you're looking at my chart, I'm doing this backwards now. So like my brain is like, okay, on this side of my chart, the far left of my chart is where my rising sign is. Across from that is my descendant. This is where Pisces is, right? Pisces is also a mutable sign. And then you sort of like flip it. Up here we have Gemini, my midheaven, and then down here we have Sagittarius. All mutable signs. You can apply this to Cancer, so like Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, cardinal signs, and then the fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Those are the modalities. They always make oppositions or squares, which are always like the tensor ones, right? So mutable signs, this new moon, you might feel that antsiness, right? You might feel that sense of like something's got to give, right? Something's got to go. I got to integrate something. I got to shift. I got to change. I got to, I got to allow myself to think in a different perspective. I have to, because Gemini, right? Thinking, all of that brain energy. I have to talk about something. I have to, but you might feel like internalized about it, right? It might be difficult too, right? Or it might be very illuminating in a great way, because say you're a Sagittarius, right? The moon's going to be making an opposition to you, so then it creates this sense of, oh, wow, I'm really feeling exposed, right? I'm really feeling this sense of like, where I am is so different than where I feel I should be, so
Mm.
the mutable signs, I would say great full moon or new moon for you, excuse me. The best thing that I can say for you to do is whatever your sign is, if it is Gemini, if it is Sagittarius, if it is Pisces or Virgo, looking at it through the lens of, okay, is this going to be, if you're a Gemini, good, conjunction, we love, or is this going to be an opposition, right? Am I going to feel at odds? I would say takeaway from it, key takeaway is allow yourself to kind of like sit with your thought and word vomit. truthfully, right? Stream of consciousness, mutable signs. Just get it out there. Don't internalize it far too much, because the tense aspects can sometimes hold us back. And what we would want to do is just say, let me just get the information out there and just look at it, as opposed to trying to have a singular conversation in the head, because I think in a lot of ways, this has an opportunity to illuminate, shine, and bring to the forth that sense of what is that new emotional or security-based initiative that I have to pursue, if that makes sense.
That's powerful. Arlene, I hope that that helps you, my love. And yeah, that's really good. Amazing. Of course, I mean, hello. It's Cole here. Cece is asking, would there be a reason that I used to connect to my sun more and now feel like I am connected to my moon sign?
Yeah.
That's an
So
interesting question. Yeah.
I was actually, uh, it's funny. I love a story, so I'm going to share a story. I'm a drag queen on the side. You can see some of my wigs and some of my costumes right here. But I was bartending an event yesterday for like a Pride event, and someone came up to me and they're like, because my drag name is Virgo Rising. I had to keep it on brand. And they were like, I think that the rising sign is bullshit. I was like, "Mm?" And she was like,
Ooh.
because when you're younger, I feel like you're your rising sign, but then as you age, and I was like, there we go, someone knows something. So the reason that you might have, felt more connected to your sun when you were younger is that, the sun is core ego, core identity, right? Core expression of the self. So when you're younger, I tend to notice people really tend to fall as their rising sign when they're younger, and they tend to grow more into their sun. That's one of my observations. But this, right, there's a very likely possibility that your moon is getting very activated right now. There's a concept in astrology known as progressed planets, so your progressions. Basically, it takes your birth chart, and then each year they move, right, just a little bit, 1 degree each year, or like shift a little bit depending on which planet it is. And it illuminates those sort of like secondary themes of what you might be going through, right? So for example, my progressed moon, because I'm approaching 27, and like every 26, 27 years is when you go through your progressed moon return, right? Your progressed moon moves back into the same sign it was. So I feel very close to my Aries moon right now. I feel very much like an Aries lately. I'm like, let's do stuff. I'm impatient. I'm frustrated. I'm like, what? I'm impulsive. I'm like, but I want to have fun. So, there's possibly a progression answer, right? That's illuminating that, making your moon much more active. Experience anecdotal things that could have happened to you as well. There could have been a transit in the past that hit your sun in a way. Maybe there's a blockage from that. Or there could have been a transit that really illuminated your moon, and now you feel really connected to that. If it's like a more short-term thing, I would say realistically, it's probably Jupiter, the nodes, or Saturn, that you're, feeling like that sense of, oh, okay, got it. I'm feeling more close to this than that. So I would say, in short, it's the transits. It's something like that, most likely a progression. But with that topic of feeling more connected to sun than moon, or feeling more connected to your rising than your sun, nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely, sometimes I work with people and I have clients that are like, I feel bad because I don't feel connected to my sun. Is that bad? I'm like, absolutely not. No, it's fantastic, right? Allow that now to navigate how you move forward, right? Allow yourself to be in your moon era, right? Celebrate the themes of that sign, right? Try to be more expressive in that way. It's okay, right? I mean, we all ebb, flow, and change. There's no person in the world who is the exact same as when they were born, right? We all grow, we all change, we all adapt. So in a great way, this is an invitation for you to be your moon, right? Be your moon sign for a little bit. And then maybe you might wake up tomorrow and you're like, I actually do feel like my sun. Now I'm going to be my sun sign. That's just the Gemini in me that loves fluidity and loves just being able to put on different hats. Some days I'm like, I got to be a Virgo today. Okay. Not the most exciting thing, but I got to do it. So I think it's great, right? But the reason would most likely be transits or your progress chart.
Yeah, I love what you said, and that's kind of interesting what you mentioned about the progressions of the planets. That makes so much sense because I mean things don't really stay static, right? I mean, as we know, the planets are moving all the time, so it would make sense that within our charts things start moving as well for us, and progressing forward. So I love that you mentioned that. I never even thought about that. Like for whatever reason, I always saw it as a static thing, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That
And I will say that with progressions, you still have your chart, right? It's not like because, for example, my progressed moon was just in Pisces, it doesn't mean I'm a Pisces moon now, right? It means
right.
that I'm going through a lot of Piscean themes, right? Or things of that nature. So right now, all my themes are very Aries, and if you look at my life is very Aries right now, and I kind of love it. It's super fun. It's like an absolute party. I'm just like, I keep telling everyone, I was like, times might be a little bit tough because times can be tough. We have our ups and downs. I was like, I'm having a fucking ball. I'm having such. They're like, really? They're like, you're having a good time. And then I was like, after I just told them like some shit that's going on, they're like, I was like, yeah, it's gonna work itself out. I was like, we're just having, it's like, it's fine, right? It's like whatever. We're here, we're here in this body once, so let's not get too finicky on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that energy. I love that Aries energy. So fiery and fun.
I know. I feel like I'm gonna be like just like completely regress, and when my progress moves into Taurus, I'll be like, but that's also when I'm gonna start making my money. So.
Hey, listen, that's nothing wrong with that. Okay,
Progress
nothing wrong
moon
with
in
that.
Taurus during my Saturn return with so much stuff going on in my 10th house. I'm like, baby, my time is coming. I was like, we have not even gotten close to the peak.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited for you for that transition. So Moonstruck is asking about. Okay, hang on. She's asking about Mercury in Libra. If you can explain that. It
Yeah.
makes her sound like an airhead, and she has a sad face.
Well,
Aww.
listen, from one air sign person to another, yeah, we can be a little airheaded. We can, we can have those moments, but it doesn't mean you are airheaded. I like to think about Libra. So Mercury energy, right? We'll start with the first part of the equation. Mercury is communication, right? It's the mind. It's what we think about. It's what we're interested in. It's how we, share our thoughts, all that jazz. Plus Libra. I like to think about Libra as the intersection between intellect and artistry, right? It's that smartness, and it's also that creativity. Smartness is smartness a word? Okay.
It's all
Anyway,
good. We made it up today.
made it up today. That's one of my favorite things. I love making up words. It's intellect and artistry, right? And then that airheadedness, right, isn't because you're not thinking, right? The airheadedness and the expression of that, and why people might label it, is because of the classic trope of indecision, that comes with Mercury and Libra energy. And it's not because you're not actually thinking about things. It's because you're overthinking about things, but you're keeping it to yourself most likely, right? Or you're trying to make that perfect list to share to someone about the pros and cons before it comes through. Of course, right? Libra can sometimes, daydream, right? And get lost in the fantasy of things because Libra's ruled by Venus, right? So it's very creative and expressive. It's like, oh, could you imagine if we had just like absolutely extravagant gala and just it's a beautiful moment. We can invite the neighbors, and we could just get like some really good prosecco, and just like, so of course there's that like daydreaminess of Libra, but it's not airheaded because it's much more it's much more exploratory, right? It's so much more of that sense of there's more options, there's more possibilities, there's more potential as to how it could happen, right? So your mind is just Rolodexing through all of that. From the outside, some of us might be like, now, what is Moonstruck doing? What's going on? So we might see that, right? But that doesn't mean you're airheaded. It's just the way that things express. In reality, Libra Mercuries are super fucking smart, right? Because they're the ones who
Yes.
have a hard time making a decision because they're going through every single possible option, right? Libra's the scale. Libra's all about balance, wanting to make sure that all of the right things are, thought of before the decision is made. So it's not airheaded. If anything, it's too overthinky, right? You need to like take a break and just say like, can I just let this happen? So it's that is how I would express
I
it.
love that. I love that. And this is the magic of Cole right here. I love that so much, that shift of perspective that he brings to you. So hopefully, Moonstruck, this helps you a little bit with the perspective shift. And you leave with that beautiful, way of seeing yourself moving forward. And so Jenny is, oh my God, hi, Jenny. So Jenny's going to be here next week. She's going to be talking about colors and how to play, how to
Ooh.
work with play and colors and connect with ourselves next week. So I'm excited. So she's
Ooh, I'm gonna
actually
have
going
to
to be
listen to
here.
that one
You definitely
because
want to listen to this one. She
I'm
is
about to
amazing.
move, and I was telling my boyfriend, I was like, I want to redecorate. I want to like get some new art, maybe paint an accent wall, all this jazz. So I will be tuning into that for sure.
Yes, she's a magical queen, sister goddess, let me tell you what. And so she's asking, what about Mars and Venus in Pisces in the second house? Are they having dreamy pillow talk about making money?
Yeah, they're
It's interesting.
absolutely having dreamy pillow talk about making money. 100%. That's like such a great way to describe it. Venus and Mars, you've got the two relationship driven planets, from a quintessential sort of, textbook moment. But, Venus and Mars, you've got the classic benefic with the classic malefic, right? You
Mm,
think that at step level, you got Jupiter and Saturn, which are like the head honchos, but these are like, the little worker bees. And in Pisces, it's interesting because Venus is exalted in Pisces. So Venus is super, super happy there. Mars isn't as happy, right? So in the second house, there's this natural sort of like emotional drive towards things, right? Feeling, I wouldn't be surprised if someone with Mars and Venus and Pisces is a little bit of a hoarder, especially if it's in the second house. No shade, absolutely no shade, but you have emotional connections to things, right? Those things that you have, it's like, but this inspired me in this way, so now I'm going to hold on to that, right? So it's second house isn't always necessarily about money. It's just about the material world. It's what we have. It's this tape measure. It's this actual tape. It's this glass from my college. So Venus and Mars and Pisces in the second house, there is this really interesting tone, and there's this really cool story being told about the things that I have are actually a reflection of how I felt in that moment, right? And the things that I pursue and what I'm going to go after are things that are going to help inspire, right? Or they're going to help cultivate, that creative emotional feeling, right? From that heart center, because Pisces is so heart center, right? It's so woo-woo witchy all over the place. Anyone with Venus and Mars and Pisces being a creative person is like fantastic chef's kiss in the second house in the material world, of course. So it's a really nice tone of saying, what I have is actually a reflection of what I feel on the inside, right? And what I
mm,
pursue, because Mars is, that pursuit, and what I create is, in this world is a reflection of what I experience internally, right? And what I sort of energetically feel connected to. So it's super creative. It's super fun, right? Make your money through creation, right? Quite literally, right? Be artsy, be dreamy, be extravagant. Because Pisces is so extravagant and all over the place, and just Pisces is just like the daydreamer and like all of this stuff, just like ooh fun. But yeah, they are having a dreamy pillow talk about money for sure.
I love that. That sounds so delicious. It
It
sounds so
is.
delicious, right? I love that. So that's such a good question, Jenny. And I kind of want to take a moment just to let Cole take a breather because he's been, ah, he's been going, he's been firing in this. And so if you're kind of coming in a little later and you don't know what's going on, you want to make sure that you do watch the replay of this video because Cole talks a little bit about his journey of finding himself in astrology, and then also goes over a little bit of just a little bit of astrology basics and kind of helping us ground a little bit of all of the information that is thrown at us every day that we don't know what to do
Mhm.
with. So he kind of gives a little bit of information there. So you want to make sure that you watch that. And if you're not following Cole already on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, you definitely want to make sure that you check him out. It's the same. It's the same at JK. It's Cole.
Yep.
JK. It's Cole for all. So, and then if you want to book a session with him, which by the way, I kind of really want to take a moment just to really say again, he's such a loving, delivery. It's such a loving delivery of messages that he gives you. And then he also is very practical in the way that he delivers it. And he gives you tools for you to, practice. So that way there's at least some sort of, understanding in a way that you can see it in your daily life. And so if you've ever, I know for me particularly, I've had times where I've had my astrology chart read and I just left more confused. And so that's not gonna happen for you with Cole. So that's why I'm so excited to kind of invite you. So you want to make sure that you go into his website, which is jkitschool.com. So everything is JK at school.
Everything. Again, I'm a slut for branding. Because like I'll even like follow people and I like people and I'm just like I go onto Instagram. I was like, why don't you have the same at? I was like, come on. I was like, it's I don't, maybe it's just me because I went to school for like design and marketing and all that jazz. So that's like where my brain goes. And I'm also a Virgo rising, Gemini sun, and my ruling planet in my chart is my Taurus Mercury. So I'm like, just say just the most straightforward thing. It should be like just as straightforward as it should be. So maybe that's my closed-minded Taurusness showing up from time to time, but
Hey, listen, it's all good. And I see someone, oh, Arlene is saying happy Pride. Yes. Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about saying that. Happy Pride.
happy Pride.
Yes. So there we go. I just kind of wanted to take a moment just to give you a moment to breathe because, oh my gosh, we've been rapid firing over here. And there's a couple more questions that people were, and these feel like a little more personal, people seeking for more support in regards to specific things, the same thing like before. So Amy's saying she's coming from Facebook and she's saying, I'm an Aries North Node. And let me just share it here. In the 11th house, Taurus rising, Capricorn moon, Sagittarius sun, and experiencing a lot of major life shifts at the moment. Any insight?
Yeah, so quite literally all of those placements are getting hit right now. Your Sagittarius sun is getting hit by Saturn, right? Making a square to Saturn and Pisces. So this is a really fantastic time for you to sort of like level set with how you're identifying with yourself, right? Saturn is karma restriction. Saturn squares are tough, probably the toughest in my opinion, because it makes us feel a little bit closed off. So with this square, it's trying to illuminate, hey, are you identifying with yourself? Are you like emotionally in tune with who you are and how you're expressing that? North Node in Aries, Jupiter was just in Aries, bopping through, right? So a lot of changes, a lot of realizations, a lot of desire to push and to grow and to do all of those fantastic things. The North Nodes are currently in Taurus and Scorpio, which is why your Taurus rising feels activated. The North Node is going through your first house. You're probably like, oh my God, who am I? Right? Whoa, I'm a different person, right? I'm feeling as though I should, change possibly, or like that I have to identify in a new way. And you're also probably like cleansing some toxic relationships, getting those out of there, being like, why am I friends with this person? Why do I allow myself to work with this, person every day? So a lot of major shifts. Yeah. Like, I mean, most of my clients right now are either people who have, Taurus in their big three, Taurus and Scorpio in their big three, or just starting to pick up those mutable sign individuals. The thing that I would, say is have like just a check-in with where you're at. And I know that sounds like super, super basic and like very, very straightforward, but all of these transits are trying to say, hey, Amy, hello, are you connecting with yourself? Right? Are you paying attention to who you are and where you're at and what you're doing and what you want? Are you doing that? Or are you just going through the motions of day to day? Are you just allowing yourself to just keep cyclically, just waking up, going to bed, waking up, going to bed? Look at your routine, right? I'm a big routine person. I'm a Virgo rising. Love it. I love when there's a little organization, even though mine is always chaotic. But I love it for other people. Look at your routine and say, like, are all of these things actually in line to what I want and what / who I am? If the answer is no, then how can we exit those out to make room for other stuff? Because a lot of what's happening is also good, right? It's very positive. It's a lot of ways saying we have to out with the old, in with the new.
That's powerful. And she's saying thank you. I saw she posted thank you. It's so helpful what you said. So thank you so much. And so hopefully, Amy, you can just keep checking on yourself, and so Brandy is mentioning Vedic sidereal. So is sidereal and Vedic the same thing? Is it the same thing? Sidereal astrology and Vedic?
Yeah, pretty interchangeable.
Okay.
From my understanding of it, truthfully. I mean, like, listen, I only just recently started like really getting into it.
Yeah.
So it's like the same way if you say like Western tropical. you know.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. No,
And
I
if
was
I'm
just
completely wrong
wondering.
in that, please, more than if someone wants to correct me, I absolutely am willing to take the hit on that. But from my understanding, it's like the same way of saying like Western tropical, right? It's a Vedic sidereal.
Okay.
Sidereal. I'm not a.
Sidereal or whatever. I don't even
I'm,
know how to say it, but I just found this out recently about this type of astrology, and I was like, what? There's like another, like, I didn't even
yeah.
realize it. And then it's completely different. And so Brandy's actually asking a question because she's saying she's a Sagittarius Capricorn cusp in Western tropical and Sagittarius in Vedic. And she feels like she resonates more with Sagittarius.
Yeah. So, one, cusp people. I always say, mathematically speaking, you're one or the other. Mathematically
Mm.
speaking. Energetically speaking, could be a different story, right? Particularly people who are at like a 0 and sometimes a 1 degree of a particular sign, right? So if you're like a 0 degree Capricorn, you might feel a lot like a Sagittarius because the sun just moved out of Sag, right? It just moved from Sagittarius into Capricorn, right? So there's still some of that lingering, right? There's still some of that sense. But I talked about it earlier. Venus and Mercury, right, move at the same pacing as the sun pretty much, so they're never too far away. So odds are, right, if you are a Sagittarius sun, odds are your Venus and Mercury are in Sagittarius, Capricorn, or Scorpio, right? They're usually never more than one sign away from where your sun sign is. So the reason that people might feel, if you're on the cusp of like, I feel more connected to this sign than the other, it tends to be illuminated through the other placements in the chart, right? Or an aspect that might be happening. I know a lot of people who feel very, very closely connected to their Vedic chart as opposed to their Western tropical chart. And again, it's just a matter of what makes you a better person. What do you resonate with? Lean into that. If you feel like a Sag and like you express like a Sag and you notice that, whenever someone talks about transits for Sagittariuses, you're like, yeah, that's me. Cool.
That's
Right. It's
beautiful.
like awesome. Lean into that because obviously, there's nuances in your chart that are speaking to that.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because I was actually feeling a little sad because I really connect with the Aquarius, all the Aquarius in my chart. I know that I'm a Capricorn, but my Capricorn is like secondary on my at least in my mind. And so I connect a lot with it. And I'm like, but then when I was looking at this side rail, I was like, but I don't really connect with that as much. So I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting that
Yeah,
she asked that question. So thank you for that.
I
Yeah.
think my side real, I'm a Taurus, and I'm like, I mean, I have my Taurus moments, but I'm not a Taurus. There's no way. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
like
I can say
if you know me on my day to day, and I was like, I'm a Taurus, people would be like,
what?
what? No, literally, people be like, are you sure? Really?
With all that,
Oh, yeah, December
sparkle energy.
22nd. Okay, so Brandy put in the comments, December 22nd. Yeah, realistically, you're like a 1 or a 0 degree Capricorn. Realistically, right? Or a 29 degree Sagittarius. So yeah, it makes sense that you definitely have a Sagittarian sort of connection.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Yeah, because
Because
you're kind of like,
that's like
she's
the
on the
cusp
cusp.
day. That's
Yeah.
like the like 21, 22 are usually like the cusp day.
Yeah, and see, for me, I'm a January 15th, so I'm kind of like leaning more towards Aquarius. And
Mm-hmm.
so like, yeah, so typically I should be a Sagittarius, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I just kind of
Yep.
twitched a little bit. It didn't make sense to me. So but yeah, that makes so much sense that Brandy, you would connect to that because that cusp. Okay, Siri's talking. Okay, Siri, my little Siri watch is talking. And then I kind of wanted to also mention here that someone else had okay, Brandy was actually asking this question. She was asking, and actually, I wanted to ask you this question too. When you're having conversations with people, do you think about what sign they are? Like, do you kind of pick up on that a little bit?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I try not to because I'm like, but like if someone says something, then I'll like catch myself being like, And I'll be like, I'll always ask. I'll never ask, are you this sign? I'll say, do you have like air in your chart? And they'll be like, what do you mean? I was like in your big three, or like, do you have like any air energy? And usually they're like, yeah, do you know which one? I said, no, because I just met you, but I know that you have air or you have like fire. Like this person that I met yesterday, we were kikiing about astrology. I like looked at them and said, you have a lot of fire in your chart, don't you? They're like Leo sun, Sagittarius rising, Leo, like all this stuff. And I was like, well, I can tell
Yeah.
there's a lot of fire in there. You listen, you said I'm going to a concert and pouring a cocktail. You said a little more. I said, all right, okay,
Okay.
fire sign, let's get into it. So whenever I'm talking to someone, usually people, like when I tell them I'm an astrologer, and this is like my biggest eye roll moment, they're like, can you guess my sign? And I'm like, no, I just met you. I literally just met you. I know nothing about you. I know
Exactly.
absolutely
Yeah.
nothing about you. And there are astrologers who, I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen this YouTube video, but it's this guy who, like he's an astrologer and he has been for like 30, 40 years or something like that. Once I'm at that point, of course, there's going to be a time where I'll be able to like meet someone and say, like, just look at them and be like, oh yeah, you're a Capricorn. Cool. Love that.
Yeah.
But I'm not at that place, and I'm completely comfortable admitting that. I can look at a chart and I know exactly what's going on, but I'm still very, I would say, green, honestly, in my like astrology sort of like nuance in that way. But
Yeah.
when people ask, me that question, they're like, "Can you guess my sign?" I was like, "I'll give you a follow up." I was like, "I want you to describe yourself to me in 3 words, and then I want you to describe yourself the way your best friend would describe you,
Oh,
because that's
wow.
2 very different things, right? 'Cause
Yes.
the way that you're going to describe yourself shows me a whole lot about your own personal ego, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm tapping into your sun, but then the way that your friend would describe you, I'm like, your friend's gonna, describe you in ways, because like if you're a Leos always like to try and screw me over. Leos and Capricorns always like to be like this, that, and they're like, no, I'm actually a Leo. I'm like, okay, well, you did not give me Leo traits. You told me you're quiet and you hate parties and like all this jazz. What do you expect from me, right? If you're trying to lead me astray.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, like, I'll always ask them, I was like, how would you describe yourself in 3 words? And how would your best friend describe yourself in 3 words? And I'll do my best. And 9 times out of 10, I'll at least be able to pick up on, like, if someone describes it, I'll be like, okay, well, is that sign in your big 3? They're like, yeah, but it's not my son. I was like, okay, well, I got one of the big 3, so that's my job. My job is to identify what's going on energetically, and I hit one of them. So the
Yeah.
sun is the easiest placement to like schmooze out of the way, and right, like manipulate truthfully, I think, because the
You
moon and
know,
the rising and Mercury, it's like, baby, you can't ignore that, right? But we all have an ego and we all know how to put on a show because society is the way it is.
that's kind of, that kind of reminds me of like when because I used to do readings on psychic apps. I stopped doing that because I really don't like the energy on the psychic apps. But when I was doing the readings, that was kind of like a very typical thing where people would be like, oh, can you can you see the future? Can you see? And I'm like, no, I cannot see the future, but I can give you information of what I'm receiving, of what's happening energetically, and give you some guidance in regards to that. And so like, there's always like this like play, like, oh, let me try, like almost like this, like, let me play with you or let me try you out. And sometimes I would have clients quite literally say opposite things to what they really like. I'm like, what are you trying to do? Like, if you want me to help you, like give me the information so I can actually help you. Don't just give me
Yeah.
information that it's gonna leave me astray, and then I'm gonna be like completely like lost in this. And then I would like I would actually feel that energetically, like it was kind of like out of alignment, like whatever they were saying, and the cards I was like receiving, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense what you're saying, but okay, I'm just gonna tell you what the cards are saying. And so yeah, it's I don't like that game.
Well, and I like whenever
Personally, I
I
don't.
have, and I always tell people like astrology. I'm going to be very bold in saying this. Astrology can't predict the future,
Hmm.
right? But astrology can let you know energetically what's going to show up. So whenever people, I mean, I've had a client before who was like, is he going to come back, right? Like the long lost love type moment. I was like, I
Yeah.
can't tell you that. They're like, what do you mean? Shouldn't you be able to do that? I was like, I don't have their chart. I don't know what's going on in their life. I also don't know if they want to see you again. I can tell you when, romantic timing is going to be amplified in your chart. Absolutely. But I can't tell you if it's him. They're like, well, you should be able to do that. I was like, well, I can't. sorry. I was like,
Yeah.
and also I'm not going to, because I don't have that person's consent, right?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
and I will say, anyone out there who wants like a synastry reading, a compatibility reading, or something like that, get the consent of the other person. I always get
Mm.
so upset with clients when they come to me and I was like, where's your partner? They're like, oh, well, we're not together. I just have their information. And I was like, that's intrusive.
Yes.
I
I
don't feel
love that you're
comfortable.
saying that.
I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing this reading now, right? It's like, but we're in this space, so I always, in moments like that, I'm always like, I'm navigating this for you focused,
Mm.
right? I have the
Yes.
other person's information, but I'm not going to tell you what's going on in their life. I'll tell you how, a little bit about like, okay, yes, this is why you might have had tense conversations, but I'm not telling you what's going to go on. That they did not consent this, right?
Yeah.
So I like, if you are going to ever get a compatibility reading or a composite chart, anything like that, please have the consent of both people, right? Both parties. Like I get it. I understand why, but it's also kind of like, you can't, it's like sometimes it feels like, in Harry Potter when like they give the love potion type moment. It's just like, what is this gonna do? Right?
Yes,
It's like,
exactly.
because like at the end of the day, it's like, if that person's not there and not resonating, right, not connecting with you, I can tell you what's going on in your chart, but unless they want me to talk about them, I really don't. That's why you will also almost never see me talking about world events, celebrities, anything like that on my pages. I did in the past, but then I was like, I feel weird about this, like, because
Mm.
truthfully, I was like, oh, everyone's doing this. That must be like a norm, like, sure, right, great way to educate and anecdotal stuff. But then I was like, I feel weird about this, right?
Mm.
I do have a personal policy where it's like, if so like I would talk about like Queen Elizabeth, right? Like, or well, like the sorry, way back Queen Elizabeth, not the most recent one who passed away. If there's like or like Marilyn Monroe, for example, right? I would, an example of like someone who's passed, right? There's a significant period of time and we can use it from like an educational perspective, right? But
Mm.
someone who's still alive or someone who has family whose like stake is in the game still, like very prominently, I'm not touching that. That's their business. If they want to come to me,
Yeah.
but I'm not making my opinions or my statements on any of that. I
This makes me
absolutely,
love you so much more, like even more. Like this makes me like I like respect you and love you so much more because, it really is such a big thing. And I've had people, ask me about, doing clearings for other people, and I can't do that.
mhm,
It's intrusive. I can't energetically send energy to someone if they don't want it.
yeah,
And so, and their higher self is not going to give permission anyway. And so like we gotta be so mindful of that. And that speaks about integrity, right? That's one of the reasons why I stopped doing the psychic apps, because that the majority of the work was third party, like they wanted third party stuff. And so
mhm,
um not that I haven't done it, and I've done it, but I prefer not to, because
yeah,
it really is something that is tapping into the other person's energy, and we don't, that's intrusive. It truly is intrusive. So thank you for bringing that forth, because we need more people like you to stand in that integrity.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, like, and I think also we spiritual people like call that shit out. There was this kid, and I'm gonna say kid, who posted a video about, I don't know, like, um the the eye shape, like the weird droopy eye, like Billie Eilish has it, and like there's like where like you can see the white underneath the eye or something like that. And in some I believe Asian culture, there's like a whole lot of like mythos around like those type of people. And this kid posted a video like, looking at her chart and like talking about her, and literally said like, her north node's in her fourth house and her south node's in her 10th, which means, yes, I mean, it was, what they said, that interpretation was correct. It's like, naturally connected, right? South node to career, public space, being, prominent. But what she really needs to do is, like, stay at home and all this jazz. And then had the audacity to say, in Billie Eilish, someone who's very vocal and open about their mental health issues, be like, I wouldn't be surprised if she's part of the 27 club. And I was like,
oh wow.
and I stitched that video. I said, this is disgusting. This is heinous.
Yeah.
This is evil. This is clickbaity. I was like, I hope you're happy that you probably just got a whole bunch of bookings because this video went crazy viral, but this is disgusting. Like, this is
Yeah, you don't
actually
do
mean.
that.
I was like, that's not cool. And people were in my comments being like, he's such a good guy. He's super nice. I was like, I don't care. You can be a good person and still do really fucked up things. Like, do not talk about someone, especially in that way, if they do not consent to that, right? I posted a video one time because people were talking shit about Scorpio moons. So this is like the special case where I'll be like, I'll talk about a Scorpio moon so people stop talking shit about them. Lady Gaga's a Scorpio moon, right? And I used the example of when she was at, I forget what award show it was, but it was her and Liza Minnelli. And she was like being very supportive of her. I was like, that's a Scorpio moon right there. A loyal, devoted, like knows energetically when someone's something off and they like need to support. I was like, so all y'all, I was like, so a moment like that, that's not, I don't believe that that's harmful, because Lady Gaga's birthday is public knowledge. You can, go around and find that, sure. But I was like, I'm not telling what's going to happen. I'm not saying,
Right.
because she's a Scorpio moon, this is going to, change in her life. I'm saying, stop talking shit about Scorpio moons. We've got a great example of a very positive, uplifting one right here.
Right,
Those
exactly.
things, I'm like, that's fine, right? If you're using, a public knowledge moment to say, like, here's, or like, I've done videos like this before where like people's Met Gala looks and how they connect to their zodiac sign.
Oh, I love that.
Like, okay, here's their Met Gala look, right? They're a Pisces. Of course they were blue, right? That sort of stuff, that's not harmful to anyone. But if you're making predictions, assumptions, or anything like that about a person, and you think, yeah, this is cool, I'm being smart, educational, sure, you might say some stuff that is like, intelligent, but are you actually saying something that's beneficial? That's where we need to check in. So I'm like, if y'all see it on the internet, send it to me. I will stitch that shit and call them out and say, like, stop this. Stop
Yes,
it
I
because
love
that's
that.
not healthy.
I love that so much, and I'm so grateful that you're
So
doing that, because it really is necessary, and and that's another thing that I've noticed that has gotten a little bit out of out of control, with people just spewing so much negativity and so much hate and so much, just for the sake of getting the likes and the comments or whatever. And to be honest with you, like, that to me, like, what are we trying to create here, right? Like, what is the purpose of this? And like, how are we reflecting this? Like, how is this going to reflect back into our own lives, right? Because everything that we're putting out there in some shape or form is going to reflect back into our lives. So we want to make sure that we're staying in integrity, especially when we're creating content, or even like how you're doing content with astrology, and like definitely connecting to our integrity is so important. So I'm so grateful that you're doing it, and I'll definitely I'm not on TikTok, but if I ever see it, so I'll be like, hey, listen, look at this, check this out. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to there's one last question that Vanita was asking, and kind of wanted, she's one of my regulars, so I want to make sure she got a question answered.
Yeah, of course.
So she is a Gemini sun. Her birthday was recent, so happy birthday,
Happy
Vanita,
birthday, fellow Gemini.
So Pisces rising and Sagittarius moon. Generally, what can I look forward to with the solstice birthday month, or is that too specific? LOL.
So, I would say in particular, because Saturn's about to go retrograde, Saturn is in Pisces, right? So you might be feeling a little bit of tension lately, okay? You might be feeling a little bit of that, ooh, what's going on? Feeling a little bit restricted, a little bit like tense in the shoulders, wouldn't be surprised. But something that I would want you to consider, right, is what's your relationship with yourself right now? Saturn's in your first. Saturn's making squares to your sun and your moon. Right? What's your relationship and your connection with yourself? What's going on? Where are you at? Right? Are you doing all the things that you want to be doing? Are you aligned, karmically and motivationally, to do the stuff that you might feel inclined to do? Because Saturn's in a really great place, right? Saturn in the first, it really lets you say, with a very fine, a fine microscope, say, okay, who am I? What do I want? How am I showing up? Is this aligned with my own vision of myself, right? Are there things that I need to adjust and change? This might be, especially over the next couple of months, because Saturn's going to be retrograde, it might feel like a lonely time, right? You might feel as though you have to go it alone. But it's also a really great time to just kind of not isolate in the sense of like I'm going to be a shut-in, but isolate in the sense of allowing yourself to use that as a connection point for yourself, right?
Mm.
Because a Gemini Sun, Sag Moon, yeah, you're social, you like to connect, you like to be busy, absolutely. But you've got that Pisces rising. Saturn's in Pisces right now. Are you spending enough time with yourself, and are you doing what you need to do, right, to really remember who you are, right, and what you want? So I would say just be on the lookout for that, and over the next couple of weeks, use those as kind of like reflection points.
I love that. I love that so much. And yeah, so hopefully that helps you, Vanita. And happy birthday to you.
Yeah, happy
This is your
birthday.
birthday gift. And so, okay, one last, and we'll be done. No more questions.
Perfect.
Jennifer, she is another regular, and she's asking, "Hi, Cole. I have a stellium and in my sixth house, Libra, Venus, Sun, Pluto. I think is that what she said?
Juno.
Jupiter,
No,
Juno.
Juno.
I'm
Yeah,
not okay.
it's an
Mercury
asteroid.
and Uranus, all in the sixth house. How would this make me the insanely wonderful human to am to am? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jennifer. But I guess what can you say about that?
Yeah. So I mean, the sixth house is the house of like our work, our service, our day-to-day routines. So we've got a Libra flavor on that. Libra in the sixth house. It's about having niceties, right? It's about having things that are organized, right, and are good, right, and having that sense of that I am, right. How would this make me the insanely wonderful person that I am?
Awesome. Thank
I
you,
love
Jen.
that. Venus and Sun in Libra, right? Very social, very playful, very, very nice. Juno there, right? All in the sixth house. So I would assume you're a doer, right? You're someone who likes to, maybe make things happen. Maybe you're not like the final decision maker, because Libra can be a little indecisive, no shade. But Libra is a cardinal sign, right? And the cardinal sign ruling the sixth house is it's very active, right? And it should be active. It should be something where you're like, I'm making concerted efforts to help create peace, right? Help create balance. You've got probably a very magnetic personality. You might seem a little scattered from time to time, but with Venus, Pluto, the Sun, Juno, right, all in Libra, all in the sixth house, I would want you to you know allow yourself, I mean, because Libra naturally does this, but like with everything you do, to like look at the other side of the coin, right? If it's like um even for example, like your coffee, right? It's like, oh, I could make my coffee today, or I could go out and get coffee, right? Always consider, right? Always consider the opposite, right? Naturally allow yourself in everything you do to play devil's advocate, right? And be inquisitive, right? And question things in that way, because all that Libra energy in the sixth, it's fun, right? You make a beautiful life, you make a beautiful world, you make things pretty, right? You want things to be well balanced and well curated. It's fantastic. But with the Sun, Venus, Pluto, Juno, right? You've got a magnetic personality, like absolutely strong. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if you've got a beautifully curated home with that type of energy, right? If you've got I would hope a well organized desk, for like a workspace. It is probably important to have it, in that way, in that regard. So Libra energy is fun, but I'm also biased because I'm a Gemini, and Geminis and Libras get along so well.
That's incredible. So, well, Jennifer, now hopefully you get some insight in there. And so, yeah, so that's the last question, and we're gonna weave a little bit to the end here, and just kind of wanted to just remind everyone to go over to Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, and make sure that you follow, subscribe to JK It's Cole. If you enjoyed this conversation and you enjoyed his energy, you definitely want to make sure that you follow him on Instagram or TikTok. His videos are amazing. Like, they're just so entertaining and educational at the same time. And it's just beautiful. I just love it. And so I highly recommend. And then if you want a reading from him, you definitely want to make sure you go to his website, jkitscole.com. I cannot express to you again how amazing the readings are with him. They're very grounded, very practical. You're not going to leave confused. You're actually going to leave with some sort of tools that you can practice. Like, even for me, like, I am like, he's now in my head forever. He's not in my head first. Like, remember what Cole said? Okay, I'm gonna touch this right now on ground. So anyway, but I just kind of wanted to mention that, and I kind of want to take a moment to drop into gratitude for those of you who are part of supporting this channel. I cannot express to you how amazing it is to have you to support this space by subscribing, by liking this video, by commenting. All of you who are here right now or who are on the replay, thank you so much. It means the world to me. And I especially want to take a moment to thank everyone who's part of the Cosmic Light Activation membership. Thank you so much for being part of this membership. I'm going to celebrate y'all here with your names. And I am opening the doors again for you to join. If you want to join, you can sign up to my email list on my website, which is thebloominglotushealing.com, and you can join once I send out the invitation email. So you will get a monthly Akashic record clearing, and then weekly we have a private Telegram channel where I share collective readings with oracle cards. And so if you want to be part of that community and support a little bit further this channel, then definitely do come on in and join on when the doors are open again. So anyway, so I just kind of wanted to take a moment just to drop into that gratitude, and also drop into the gratitude for you, Cole. Thank you so much for being here, for just sharing your time, your space, your energy, all of this amazing conversation. Like, I'm just cannot express to you how excited I was. I was counting the days. This is quite literally one of the best months for me. And you are one of those people that made this an amazing month for me here on this channel. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who was here. You're all so fun, and I love a communicative group. It's always nice when people are engaged, asking questions, inquisitive. It makes me happy. So thank you all for allowing me the space to come chat with you. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so with that, I want to say goodbye to everyone. I love you all, and namaste. I'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.